Hi, and welcome to this video on outlining. Today we will look at ways to create an outline in order to draw conclusions from a text. In particular, we will go over exactly what an outline is and why it is a useful organizational tool. Many people think of outlines as pre-writing tools used for structuring an essay. For instance, a thesis statement may be included along with 3 major supporting key points. However, the topic here is not primarily related to using outlines for the creation of an essay. Instead, we are concerned with using outlines to help us summarize and draw conclusions from a text. First off, it is crucial to gain an understanding of the conventional way of outlining. This will not only help you make a useful outline, it will also help you understand how to read an outline written by somebody else. However, do keep in mind that outlining is not a one-size-fits-all process. As you become more experienced with outlining, you may find that different methods work more effectively for you. For now, let's look at the essential pieces of an effective outline. At the top of your outline, be sure to write the thesis statement. The thesis statement is often included at the beginning of a text. In an essay, it may be the final sentence of the first paragraph, while for a shorter passage, it may be the first sentence. In essence, the thesis statement should be the biggest idea. It is an idea that all following ideas in the text relate back to. Roman numerals denote main ideas throughout a text. In particular, these are primary ideas or claims. They make up the main substance of the text. Think of these portions as the ideas that the author wants you as a reader to take away after reading. The number of Roman numerals in an outline relies on how many main ideas are present in the text. Uppercase letters denote subtopics in a text. In short, subtopics provide support for main ideas. These can be thought of as secondary ideas or claims. These are crucial for justifying and supporting the primary ideas or claims in a text. Arabic numbers are used to denote subdivisions within subtopics. To put it more simply, these are used when listing claims or ideas that support secondary claims or ideas. Lowercase letters are details within subdivisions. One rule to keep in mind while outlining is that there is a flow from general to specific ideas. For instance, main ideas as denoted by Roman numerals are relatively broad, while content following lowercase letters can be quite specific. Let's look at a simple sample outline. There are a couple of things to note about this outline. First, not every main idea listed has the same number of corresponding subtopics. Furthermore, not every subtopic has a subdivision. This is okay. The number of main ideas, subtopics, subdivisions, and details about subdivisions will vary depending on how detailed you want your outline to be. Another important aspect to consider is the order of the outline. There's a reason that 1, smoking is unhealthy, appears first. It is arguably the most important reason to avoid smoking, while the other main ideas may not be considered as urgent. Learning how to create a conventional outline can be very beneficial for drawing conclusions and summarizing the content of a text. Let's look at a review question before we go. Which of the following statements is false? A. Outlines help us organize ideas about a text. B. There's only one proper way to do an outline. C. Outlines proceed from general ideas or claims to specific ideas and claims. Or D. An outline generally uses Roman numerals to list main ideas. The answer is B. There is no one proper way to create an outline. Use whatever methods work best for you.
Have you ever put down a book and wondered, what in the world did that mean? Chances are the author didn't have a clearly defined theme worked out, or didn't execute it well. A literary theme is the unifying or dominant idea in a work of fiction. This is not to be confused with the plot. The theme is the main topic or central idea. This can be as simple as love, family, or revenge. It can be as complicated as science versus nature, the folly of youth, or the treachery of commerce. Every writer makes his or her writing about something, and that something, the essence of the story, is the theme. For example, a major theme in Great Expectations is that moral values are more important than wealth and status. Alienation is a primary theme in Crime and Punishment, while true love triumphs dominates the well-loved classic Princess Bride. What good does it do to know major themes? We've already pointed out how a story without a uniting theme is often confusing and leaves the reader wanting more. Well, learning about themes isn't just a way to better analyze an author's finished work of fiction, it's also a way to improve your own writing. The stronger a writer's theme is, and the more in tune the writer is with that theme's execution, the better the work as a whole will be. For your own written work, ask yourself, what under all the characters and subplots is my story really about? Is it about love conquering all, about good triumphing over evil, about the dangers of progress? Often, your story will have a spine. This is a one-sentence description of the heart behind your book. For example, one could say the spine of Pride and Prejudice is a man and woman during the Regency era overcome their preconceptions to ultimately find love. While two major themes are matrimony and, you guessed it, prejudice. This might sound too simple, but that's okay. The theme is supposed to be an oversimplification of the story's meaning. Once you've defined your theme and the spine of your story, it's helpful to look at all your characters, situations, and plot developments through this lens. Say your theme is love fails in the end. Even at the happiest moments of your love story, it might be wise to include some foreshadowing of love's imminent doom. This helps enrich your writing. Two of the primary ways to build a theme in writing are through motifs and symbols. A motif is a recurring literary structure that helps develop your theme. It's a meaningful pattern that reuses objects, characters, even weather, to further emphasize the theme. For example, in The Great Gatsby, changing weather patterns reflect the shifting tone of the story. The weather is overwhelmingly hot when characters feel suffocated by a situation. Tension is connected to storms, and the day of Gatsby's funeral, it's pouring rain. A symbol is like a motif, but on a smaller scale. It's an image, character, or object that has a meaning beneath the immediate surface. Let's stick with The Great Gatsby in our explanation. In the novel, Gatsby is still in love with a former flame, Daisy. He's come up in the world since their last meeting and now lives across the lake from her in an enormous mansion. Daisy has a green light on the edge of her dock, and Gatsby watches that light from the edge of his own dock. This is an example of symbolism. There's nothing to suggest Gatsby is particularly infatuated with green lights, but for him, the light symbolizes Daisy, who seems to him unattainable. In summary, a literary theme is different than a plot. While a plot is the order of events in a work of fiction, the theme involves the overall meaning and purpose of the book. The theme is where fiction intersects with life. It may be a story about hobbits in Middle-earth, but the theme of friendship and good conquering evil is still applicable to real life.
Let's talk about supporting details and how they can help strengthen your writing. A paragraph usually starts with the main idea, also called the topic sentence, and the rest of the paragraph gives specific details to support and develop that point. Today, we'll be talking about those details called supporting details. Think of it this way. If you're building a table, then you need a flat surface for the tabletop. This is like your main point or topic sentence. If that flat surface doesn't have any legs to stand on, though, it's no good as a table. The supporting details are like the legs of the table, propping up the topic sentence. There are 6 main types of supporting details: descriptions, vocabulary, proof, voices, explanation, and importance. Description is fairly self-explanatory. The writer can use the 5 senses, comparison, and metaphors to help paint a vivid picture for the reader. Vocabulary helps with clarification. For example, if you have a topic sentence that relies on the word pulchritudinous, it might help to include a definition of the word so the reader doesn't get sidetracked. Pulchritudinous means beautiful, by the way. Proof is often made up of facts, statistics, and dates that are hard evidence for your main point, and voices are expert quotes, individual opinions, or different perspectives that can be considered soft proof. Explanation is restating the main point more simply, and importance is answering the question, so what, after a fact or a quote. Let's take a look at a quick example. Being a celebrity is often difficult. First of all, celebrities have to look flawless all the time. Perez Hilton once said celebrities have to sacrifice their private lives when they choose to enter the spotlight. Think about the gossip rags you've seen with unflattering paparazzi photos of the private moments of the stars' lives. This obsession can sometimes lead to stalking, threatening letters, and even physical attacks. Okay, so our main point is that first sentence. Being a celebrity is difficult. The supporting details follow. You can see a voice is presented, that of Perez Hilton, a descriptive explanation directing you to think about the paparazzi photos, and two simply descriptive phrases. This paragraph would be even stronger with a testimonial about a real-life story of a celebrity facing danger because of their place in the public image. That would be a proof-based supporting detail. When you're writing supporting details, it's important not to stray too far from your original point. Remember, every paragraph in a written work is pointing back in some way to your overall thesis, and every sentence in the paragraph is pointing to the main point of that paragraph. If you have a main point about, say, how dogs are man's best friend, you wouldn't want to use an example of how disloyal cats are in that paragraph. Save that point for another paragraph. Stay focused on facts about dogs in the supporting paragraph about dogs. If you get off track from your main point, your reader might get confused and lose interest. A common mistake in writing a paper is not providing enough specific details. The more specific, the better. A vague detail is like a thin table leg. It will make your entire point wobbly. Often, vague details come when you're pressed for time or don't want to research a topic fully. Take the time to make your paper worth reading. Let's look at an example to further prove this point. You could write something like this. I felt like I was sick. By the time I got home, it was worse. The symptoms kept developing, one after the other. Okay, you know in general what's happening, but think how much more convincing the following sentence would be. I was sick at my desk when I felt the tickle in my throat and started to cough. By the time I got home, the room seemed to be swimming around me, and I found I had a fever of 102. I crawled into bed, shivering. That's a little more vivid, isn't it? The details are strong and vibrant, not generic and vague. It makes the writer's point much more clearly. So let's look back on what we've learned. Supporting details help hold up your main point. They should be specific, creative, and focused on the main point of the paragraph. Do this, and your writing will greatly improve. Credibility is defined as the quality of being trusted. In literature, having a credible text means that the information therein is reputable and a trusted source for those looking for information on the subject. In this video, we'll go over how to identify a credible text and explain why a text's credibility is so important. To ease the process of identifying a credible text, the radar framework was developed to pinpoint the important qualities a text must have to be credible. Each letter in radar stands for a quality to look for in a piece of literature. R. Rationale. What is the purpose of the text, or why was it created? Can you detect any clear biases expressed in the text? A credible text does not try to push the author's personal feelings on the reader. If there are opinions present, a credible text makes sure to tell both opposing sides of a story and not just the side the author may personally agree on. A. Authority. Who is writing this text, and are they themselves a reputable source or well-informed expert on the subject? If you are searching for a text about physical chemistry, it's better to use the source written by a physical chemist with a degree in that field than an author that saw one documentary on the subject and decided to write about it. Make sure the author of the text is well informed about the subject they are writing about. D. Date. As we continue to acquire new information and understanding on subjects, our older texts become less reliable. For example, many credit Sigmund Freud for his theories that helped advance the field of psychology. But many who study and practice within psychology now would never utilize any of his theories in their practice, especially with patients. Even texts written as recent as a year ago can be discredited by another more recent study. Check the date on your texts and make sure the information hasn't been refuted. A. Accuracy. In order to ensure the accuracy of the information, many texts, especially academic texts, are peer-reviewed by other subject matter experts. See if the text you're using has been reviewed and supported by other scholars in that field of study. R. Relevancy. The content of the text overall can determine if it is credible or not. Does the text only partially mention the subject you're looking for? Is the information too technical or too simplified? Does the text mention the subject you're researching, but in a different context? If so, the text may not be credible. A relevant text provides information that is useful to the subject you are learning or researching. If it doesn't teach you anything useful or new, it's likely not relevant. All of these questions help readers identify the credibility of a text. Why is this so important? In order to share new information and discoveries, readers must be conscious of the information they take in, where it's coming from, and who wrote it. Discerning the credibility of a text helps minimize the spread of false or outdated information. We all have had that familiar experience of seeing an article on social media about an event that struck us as shocking, only to find out that the article was from 5 years ago, or see that the writer wrote the article with emotional language that showed bias in their retelling of the event or subject. Things like timeliness, a reliable author, and fact-checking before publication ensure that the information you're taking in is credible and that you and those you share the text with are accurately informed about the subject at hand. Now that we have covered how to identify a reliable text, let's do a little practice. True or false? When a text was written doesn't affect its credibility. The answer is false. Always note when a text was written to make sure your information isn't out of date. You're writing a paper on modern-day cooking methods and are looking for sources to include in your paper. Using the radar framework, which text would be the most credible source to include based on the title and year of publication? A. Standard Cooking Utensils, 1986. B. Modernist Cuisine, The Art and Science of Cooking, 2011. C. The King Arthur Flour Baker's Companion, 2003. Or D. Cooking in Ancient Civilizations, 2006. The correct answer is B. This book is not only the most recently published, but the title shows the subject of the book is most relevant to the theme of your paper. Separating fact from opinion can be a difficult task. In this video, we will discuss the distinction between fact and opinion and offer some helpful tips for distinguishing between the two. A fact is a statement that can be proven to be true by the use of evidence. Factual statements are true in all cases and for all people. In other words, facts are universal. Some examples include dogs are mammals. Albany is the capital of New York. Mount Everest is the tallest mountain on Earth. Each of these statements is true. Furthermore, each statement is verifiable and not debatable, provided that definitions are agreed upon. Put simply, evidence exists that could potentially prove or disprove each claim. Opinions, unlike facts, are neither true nor false. An opinion can express a belief, attitude, value, judgment, or feeling. Some examples include, dogs are the best mammals in existence. Albany is the most interesting city in New York. World War II was a terrible war. Each of these statements expresses an opinion. Note that each is debatable. In other words, one can potentially agree or disagree with. Debate, a statement of opinion. Note that the final statement, World War II was a terrible war, strikes many of us as factual. However, this is a statement of opinion. Yes, most people would consider World War II terrible. However, there is always the possibility that somebody out there holds a different opinion, as strange as they may seem. It is very rare for a statement with a value word like terrible to be factual. Now that we know the differences between a fact and an opinion, it's important to know how to distinguish between them when reading literature. Let's look at some helpful strategies. Watch for opinion masked as fact. A lot of times, professional or technical language can seem factual. In particular, you'll want to watch out for predictions. Predictions are opinions since they cannot be verified in the present. This is even true if the prediction is being expressed by an expert with an informed opinion. A zoologist who predicts that a particular animal will go extinct in 50 years, for example, is stating an informed opinion. This opinion is based on evidence, research, and expertise, but because it cannot be presently confirmed, it is not a fact. Value or judgment words often signal an opinion. LeBron James is very tall is a statement most people would agree with. However, the word very makes this problematic. What exactly does it mean to be very tall? It is not defined. What one person considers very tall, another may consider average or even short. The word very is an example of a value or judgment word. Here's a list of value and judgment words. If you see one of these in a statement, then the view being expressed is likely an opinion. Look for words like should or ought to. These words usually suggest a course of action or give advice. Though this advice may be advisable, it is rarely factual. No matter how much we agree with a should statement, it is by its very nature opinion. For instance, one should avoid smoking cigarettes may be sound advice with a lot of supporting evidence, but it is still an opinion. Smoking cigarettes can cause a variety of health ailments, on the other hand, can be verified and is therefore factual. In essence, facts can be verified by evidence, and opinions are statements of belief, attitude, value, judgment, or feeling. Before we go, let's look at a quick review question. Which of the following statements is factual? A. Ohio is a beautiful state. B. You should never drive faster than the speed limit. C. George Washington was the first president of the United States. Or D. George Washington was a great public speaker. The answer is C. This is the only option that can be backed up by evidence.